Well, here's a story you don't hear every day. I mean, not every single day. Dad and kids going to baseball practice are pulled over with guns pointed, lawsuit says. Oh. A man is suing a Wisconsin city after he says police officers held him and three children at gunpoint during a traffic stop. Luke Weiland was taking his two sons and their friend, aged 12 and 14, to baseball practice on January 29, 2023, in Wisconsin Rapids when he noticed police lights in his rearview mirror. He pulled along the shoulder of the highway to allow the police cruiser to go around him. That's when he realized he was the one being pulled over, according to the lawsuit. Cherries and berries lighten him up. Whelan parked his pickup truck on the shoulder of a turning lane. He rolled his window down to speak with the cop. But the officer never approached his vehicle, the lawsuit said. The officer stepped out of the vehicle and crouched between the open door of his vehicle and the body of the vehicle and began screaming at Whelan. Unstable idiots. The officer screamed at Whelan to turn off the vehicle and to put the keys outside on the roof, the lawsuit says. Whelan did as the officer said. Then the officer screamed for everyone in the truck to put their hands on the ceiling outside the truck, the lawsuit said. Remember, these are 12, 13, whatever, these are little kids. However, Whelan and the children didn't understand what the officer meant. Officers yelling at these people. Amazing. The lawsuit said that the officer was acting erratically, yelling and shouting demands that made no sense, and his behavior was concerning to everyone in the Whelan truck to the point that they thought something might be wrong with the officer to be behaving in this manner. Yes, indeed. He's a cop. They all behave in this manner. And they support him in his actions. Whelan and the children all raised their hands inside the truck. Then the officer drew his gun, crouched behind the door of the police cruiser, and pointed his gun at the truck, the lawsuit said. Everyone in the car became extremely concerned and frightened for their lives at this point. Can you imagine, folks? An unhinged knucklehead cop is pointing a gun at you. We know what happens. Philando Castile, you know what I'm saying? Another officer showed up to the traffic stop and also drew his gun. According to the lawsuit, the officer ordered Whelan out of the truck, handcuffed him, and placed him in the police cruiser. Monster. A sergeant arrived at the scene, and after seeing the two officers with their guns drawn, he drew his gun and pointed it at the truck, according to the lawsuit. Stupid idiots. They're a bunch of knuckleheads. Okay. McClatchy News reached out to the city of Wisconsin Rapids for comment February 5th, but did not immediately hear back. During this time, a dispatcher called Whelan's wife, who was the registered owner of the truck. His wife explained to the dispatcher that her husband was driving the truck, taking kids to baseball practice, the lawsuit said. She also explained that her husband is an attorney, oh lordy, and is known to many city officials and officers. Oh, I think we know what's going on here, folks. There's more to this story. These dirty, corrupt scumbags. The lawsuit said Whelan told officers that the other passengers were children. Still, when officers approached the truck, they were pointing their guns toward the kids, the lawsuit said. You know why? Because they're terroristic in their ways. Whelan repeatedly asked the officers what was going on and why they were being pulled over in this manner. The officer told him he was being treated as a high-risk stop because Whelan traveled a long distance before pulling over. Ooh. Insanity. Whelan said it was possible he drove 1 to 3 minutes before noticing the police lights because he wasn't looking in the mirrors, but that as soon as he noticed him, he pulled over, according to the court documents. The children asked why they didn't stop, and they replied that they never heard anything, had no idea anyone was behind them. Cops are such idiots. They have no sense of anything that's right. Whelan was ultimately given a citation for speeding and fleeing a scene, but another officer later showed up at his home and gave him a citation for failing to yield to an emergency vehicle, told him to rip up the other citations. Covering their butts because they're a bunch of scumbags. All citations were later dismissed. That's a good idea there, city. The Whelan family's lawsuit accused the city of Wisconsin Rapids, 2 officers of unlawful seizure in violation of their civil rights. The lawsuit is seeking compensatory and punitive damages for an amount to be determined. It's going to be a lot. All right. What do you think about that, folks? Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. What do you think about that? I wish we had the names of these goofball officers. It's crazy. Sure would be nice to know what that rights violating goofball's name was. Well, we'll just leave it to that city. Mud is on them.